Hi, I'm Victor Vogel. I normally talk about interpersonal communication, but today I want to talk about gun violence. Now, gun violence is nothing new, but lately it's accelerated and it's become, over the years, more predominant. It, People are beginning to choose it as the way to solve a simple disagreement or misunderstanding, to the point where innocent children are now being shot for something that as small as trying to get a basketball that rolled into somebody's yard. This is not neighborly. This is not how you want to solve that particular problem. Now, I knew about this 10 years ago. I predicted this increased violence over 10 years ago, really. But 10 years ago in 2012, I wrote a book, and it was called Creating a Bad Guy Free Zone: How the Average Citizen Can Protect Themselves. And in that book, I suggested that the current paradigm we're using to solve gun violence and violence in general isn't really working. It is a law enforcement model premised on catching criminals, putting them in jail, incarcerating them, trying them, and that would deter violence. We know now that has not worked. And I professed in this book that we need to change the paradigm to a more protection model. And that protection model is one where citizens get involved. The everyday people get involved in protecting themselves. And in doing that, based on what I recommend in the book, people are helping law enforcement protect people and prevent violent crimes as opposed to reacting to them. Now, that's kind of fallen on deaf ears for 10 years. But today I saw a video on CBS of a group of mothers who have had enough. And it's sad it's taken this many lives and that many kids before anyone would bond together and come together as a community and begin to start saying, we need to handle this differently. Now, legislation isn't going to solve the problem either, but it is part of the issue. And part of the issue is getting people into office who will pass legislation that will prevent guns from being available and control and manage how guns are used in this country, which is not a violation of the Second Amendment. Now, you can argue that all you want, but it's just legally not really there. But most importantly, it's just not the right thing to do. It's not the right thing to own a whole bunch of guns, unless you're just going to go into the gun range and shoot them there. But what happens is we find people don't do that. So you have to deal with what people are telling you, the behaviors you are seeing. Past behavior predicts future behavior. That tells me we can expect, like I saw back in 2012, a lot of increase in violence based on the behavior people were exhibiting at that point, the past behavior. It was just going to only accelerate. It did. Now, this behavior we're seeing now is going to accentuate and accelerate it more unless something like these people come together. And I don't mean on social media, and I don't mean on the media and the press. This is where people in communities bond, come together, get into areas and talk to each other and say, we've had enough. What do we need to do to stop this? To put a new paradigm into how we deal with gun violence, one that prevents gun violence as opposed to react to it. And that has happened with these ladies. Now, be clear, they are protesting. And I will tell you, go back and look at all issues where people want to change, racism, abortion, or whatever it is that you feel, gun violence, whatever you feel it is. Protesting brought awareness, but it never created action. So you got to go beyond your protests. You have to organize and put together things that will affect people who can, but aren't or won't deal with gun violence. And so as long as they're allowed to rest in their little corners and not have to deal with it because it's uncomfortable, you will continue not only to have gun violence, you will see an increase in gun violence. And it's going to impact more and more people, including kids. So here is the deal. Start meeting. These ladies have started what I consider the beginnings of what you need to do. And this has to do with interpersonal communication, I guess, and that you've got to sit down face to face, not on social media, not through medias, not through emails, all of that. You got to get around the table and come to an agreement as a community as a whole bunches of you. And if your community board doesn't want to hear it, then you got to come together as a community and meet without that board and decide that you're going to send letters to people who are running for office that say, we will never vote for anyone unless they are ready to eliminate guns, eliminate AR-15s, control and manage how people get guns and manage how they keep guns, and then hold them legally accountable if they fail to do that, whether it's school officials, whether it's parents, whoever it is, you're going to be held legally accountable. If you're a parent and you own a gun and you think you're going to go to jail for an accessory to murder charge because your child got your gun and went over to school and shot people, then maybe that would begin to be a deterrent much, much more. But most of all, just figure out how to get guns out of the picture in general. It's obvious. People aren't going to control themselves with guns. So no, it's not the gun. It is an inanimate object. It is the person. But we are not able to control the people. So the alternative to that is to control the inanimate object and make it unavailable. And then the way to do that is come together as communities, have these discussions around coffee, grow in size, and then put the pressure on your local community officials, your county community officials, your state legislation, and finally the federal legislation to say, we are not voting, or more importantly, we are voting for anybody who will eliminate guns, AR-15s, within limitations, AR-15s, the violent things, the magazines, the things that really kill people in mass. And we're going to institute laws to hold people accountable who have those guns. No more conceal and carry. There's no need for average citizens to carry. I just go around and ask your local person, you know, how many of you have had to pull a gun out and kill somebody to defend yourself or defend anybody else for that matter? It's small. It's the percentage is so minuscule you can't count the number of zeros in front of the one behind the period. So here's the deal. Do what these ladies are doing. Get together. Finally say enough is enough. We're going to pursue this. And we need to have enough numbers to where we're certain when our kids go to school, there aren't going to be a lot of guns available to go in there. It's never saying you're going to have 100% protection, But what you can do is at least take away the option that people have who can't control themselves. And we've already seen people can't control themselves. Yeah, it is a person, but you can't provide enough resources to control 380 million people in America. Your other option is to reduce that inanimate object when picked up and used by that person is deadly. Get it out of their hands. Get it out of everybody's hands. You really don't need a gun to protect yourself. If you really want to know how to do that, you go to victorlvogel.com. You look up my webinar, Avoid Violence and Evade Fear. You contact me and you let me know you want to go through that course, and I will show you how you can protect yourself without a gun. You don't need a gun. The vast majority of Americans don't have guns. There are more guns in America than anywhere else in the world, but most Americans don't own guns, and they are doing just fine. If we had less guns, more people would do just fine. You don't need a statistical study to see this. You just need your eyes and your ears and open your mind to what you're seeing. Okay. And this particular report shows that in your statistical study if you need it. Okay. This is a political issue. Unfortunately, you can say politicians are killing kids. It's easy. You can say that. You can say that by absence of action. Absence of action to solve the problem, to change the paradigm from self-defense to protection. And protection means you got to eliminate the source that's killing people. And then you got to help people try to figure out how to deal with their problems. Then you got to hold people accountable who own guns for hunting or whatever, who own guns. You got to hold them accountable for doing it safely to protect the rest of the community. So, yes, watch this CBS News show. And if you didn't watch this video all the way through, it's not unusual on social media, unfortunately. That's why we're dumbing down America. We're dumbing down America because nobody wants to take the time to think through and have a total interactive, interpersonal communication experience with other people about a topic as dangerous and as complex as gun violence. They just don't want to take the time. That's because social media wants everything in 15 seconds. You can't solve this damn problem in 15 seconds, folks. You can't. You can't solve it on social media. You can't solve it by bitching on Twitter. You can't solve it by lambasting somebody who has a different opinion than you do on Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram, and especially TikTok. I'm sorry, that's not what's going to solve getting kids to the point where they're safe and not shot in their front yard for going and getting a damn basketball in another person's front yard. Really, this I don't understand. I don't understand it at all. It makes no sense. It's not civil. It's not who human beings should be. I don't care about your Second Amendment if you really want to know. If I had my way, we'd do away with the Second Amendment. We'd do away with it because it's killing more people than it's helping. I'll tell you that. I haven't seen the United States in over 200 years attack people. Okay, what I have seen them do is try to get guns out of people's hands, and those people rebelled. And of course, they paid the price for rebelling. Law enforcement has to take a different tack. The community has to take a different tack. We have to worry about protection and not reaction. We need prevention, not reaction. That means protection, not the current paradigm where we go in afterwards and eliminate the issue. And we always come out saying we saved lives, but you lost lives. And those lives count. Had we prevented them, had we put in everything into place to stop that from happening, we would go back when kids could go to school and nothing ever happened in school except a kid's fight or an argument on the playground. That was it. And it wasn't settled with guns. I remember those times, folks. They were there. You, the community as a whole, have created this need to have guns. And you as a community need to get rid of the damn guns. We didn't have this many guns in the community back in 1950. We just didn't. We didn't have this type of weapon. I was in the service when this type of AR-15 was introduced. It wasn't introduced as a hunting rifle. It was introduced as a mass killing machine in Vietnam, 1960s. So I'm telling you right now, watch this video, then start organizing your community. And the deal is, we are not going to vote for anybody who doesn't pass laws to eliminate military assault-style weapons, high-capacity magazines, and automatic handguns that shoot large numbers of bullets. You don't need them to protect yourself. Ask the vast majority of Americans. They don't need them. Ask everybody that doesn't have a gun. They don't. I carried a gun 10 years professionally. I gave it up. I sold it back to a dealer. Okay? And I didn't sell it to a private citizen because you know what? You can take it to a dealer and they are licensed by the federal. They are controlled by the government and they know how to handle that. Private citizens, where you just pass it back and forth between somebody, you have no friggin' idea how it's going to be used down the road. I didn't worry about that, okay, because I sold it to a dealer. Or you can just take it down to the police department and give it up. So there's a lot of solutions here, but they don't begin with just legislation, although that's a start. The next thing is your community needs to demand that we pass laws that hold people accountable. In Oxford, Michigan, kid went in and shot up the school. The school is being sued because they didn't take the action they needed to take. The parents are being tried as accessories to manslaughter, okay? And so they're going to go to jail. And that might start sending a signal to people that, hey, you're going to have a gun in your house. Yeah, you have a right to have a gun. We also have a right to charge your ass and throw you in jail if you don't handle it properly. And before now, that's not happened. But that governor and that attorney general in Michigan are pushing that. And those trials are happening right now. And if they're convicted, and they should be, if they're convicted, then we're starting to send a signal that we're going to hold everybody accountable. The school where the 6-year-old shot the teacher, the parents are being looked at now, and she sued the school for millions of dollars, and she'll probably win that case. The school system's going to be short money that should go into teaching kids because they're going to pay this teacher millions of dollars for being shot because they didn't do what they needed to do. Okay, so it's time for you, the citizens, to take action. Hold yourself accountable. Put stuff in place in schools to keep guns off the schoolyard, let alone in the school. Put the perimeter up around the school. Make sure nobody gets through. Nobody gets even on the school grounds unless they have, passed the security process. That's how you protect kids in school. That's how kids can go in there and not worry about guns, not worrying about being shot, where you don't have to conduct drills that keeps putting in their mind every time you do the drill that they could get shot. That's not protection, folks. That's creating a psychological problem in itself. Think about it. Now, get out in the community, start getting active, and hold people accountable, from legislators to school systems to parents. Hold them accountable. Pass the laws that hold them accountable. And think about this. The vast majority of Americans do just fine in terms of violent crimes without a gun. The vast majority of them. So if you've got a gun, I'm guessing it's more political than it is really need for self-defense. And if I look at you and you can't actually prove to me where you had to shoot somebody to save somebody's life, and you happen to be 76 years old like I am, and I was in security, I was protecting people, and I never had to shoot anybody and kill them with that gun, because I set up scenarios where people didn't put themselves in a position to be a target. That's protection. Prevention, not, oh gosh, we want to get in a gunfight. Trust me, you're not going to enjoy a gunfight. You are not going to enjoy a gunfight. It's not going to be exciting like you see in the movies. Okay. That's the other group of things that I mean, I could go on and on. I'm going to stop. I am only telling you, please watch the CBS video.